Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. Known for their beautiful beaches and tropical rainforests, these four Latin American countries share many similar environmental and economic traits. Hello, everybody. My name is Austin Reyes, and today I'm going to be taking a close look into this tropical region and break down many significant environmental and economic factors that distinguish these four countries from the rest of the world. The majority of the population in this region are Roman Catholics, with their primary language being Spanish. However, there are various regions within these countries with unique customs and traditions, making it increasingly difficult to properly market in South Central America. It can best be described by saying the only time these regions unite is for sporting events. The Venezuelan currency is the bolivar, which is currently traded at 9.9875 bolivar to $1. In Colombia, the Colombian peso is traded at 3,210.88 Colombian pesos to $1, and in Peru, it's 3.29 sol to $1 US. And in Ecuador, well, the US dollar is their primary currency. Colombia currently sits as the 55th largest export economy in the world. In 2017, Colombia exported approximately $39.1 billion. Of this $39.1 billion, mineral products are a major export, petroleum specifically, exporting nearly 614,000 barrels per day, most of which ends up here in America due to proximity. Other mineral products include coal briquettes and coke. And actually, although I don't mean coke as in cocaine, a 2016 UNODC report actually suggested that the potential production value of cocaine in Colombia sat around $2.7 billion, which is just about equal to the cost of how much coffee they export in a year. So, next time you hear someone refer to coffee as cocaine, think Colombia. Their top two imports include computers and medicine. Venezuela is currently ranked as the 65th largest exporter in the world. Venezuela exported about $27.8 billion, and much like Colombia, their top export is petroleum. And like all the countries besides Peru, their top export destination is the United States. Their top two imports include petroleum at cheap prices in which they refine and mix with crude to resell, and machinery for oil. Ranked 102nd of the world's largest export countries, Ecuador is known for exporting, petroleum, as well as bananas and crustaceans. They exported nearly $19.3 billion in 2017. Their top imports include computers, petroleum, and vehicles. Peru ranks 52nd as the largest export country, and they're the largest exporter of the four we're focusing on. Like the others, they're a main exporter of mineral products. However, copper ore and other metals are their primary focus. They also export tons of gold and some tropical food items. Their top imports include technology, petroleum, and vehicles. Due to the proximity of this region and the natural resources that they produce, keeping positive relationships between the U.S. has been very important for both the U.S. and this region. The U.S. relies on them for investments in the oil industry, and the region relies on the U.S. for technology and medicine. Other than oil, the U.S. doesn't have many businesses in this region. These relations have not always been the most positive, however. Ever since the U.S. declared war on drugs, investments by the U.S. to combat the production of coca plants and cannabis in this region, they've continued, with little effect, because the cocaine industry is continuing to grow even faster than it did under Pablo Escobar in the 80s. Also, You have political tensions in certain countries that have continued to plague the relationship with the U.S., especially Venezuela. There's an instance just recently where um, Nicolas Maduro recently announced that Venezuela was breaking ties with the U.S. because President Donald Trump made an announcement, a tweet, recognizing Juan Guaido as the president of Venezuela. And Maduro did not take that very lightly. Also, there was another incident in Venezuela in 2015 where President Barack Obama signed a presidential order declaring Venezuela a threat to national security. These next few slides include some very relevant statistics on the economy of the countries within the region, as well as how they compare to the U.S. I had to take the United States off of this chart in order for the rest of the countries to actually be shown. The population in Ecuador has continued to grow. The population density has gotten bigger, and much like China, a lot of younger kids, ages 6 to 14, have actually had to start working. They have a lot of child labor to produce what they need to. Also, in 2015, Ecuador bumped up their MFN tariff rate in attempts to protect its oil-reliant economy. Well, this didn't really go over too well, considering there was a plunge in oil prices shortly thereafter. From this chart, we see unemployment kind of plateauing, topping out from 2006 to 2016 in this region. However, if you look in the early 2000s, and we refer to a chart of crude oil prices, we can kind of see a relationship, especially in the early 2000s, when in 1999, for example, crude oil hit an all-time low, and Colombia's unemployment rate skyrocketed, as well as Ecuador and Venezuela. However, there were also a bunch of civil conflicts going on around this time. A lot of guerrilla attacks from drug organizations, new presidential election in Colombia. It was very hard to solve the conflict of the devastating economy around this time. The poverty gap at the national poverty line. This chart offers some insight as to how these countries are operating. If we look back at the unemployment chart, we can kind of see it's plateauing alongside it. Now, Venezuela is estimated right now around 30%, and that's due to a lot of political factors that started in when Nicolas Maduro was formally inaugurated as president of Venezuela. There was a lot of conflict, a lot of crime in Venezuela, and he sought to stop this crime. However, in order to do this, he thought it was possible to enable a law that allowed him to rule by decree to fight the corruption. And basically, this gave him all the power in the world to create law by himself and with no challenges. When this happened, he ordered the military to start taking over appliance stores and different local shops, and it tore up the economy, which caused a lot of people to go unemployed and poverty to skyrocket. And needless to say, none of the crime actually stopped. The GDP growth rate of this region has been fairly consistent. However, if you look at Venezuela, their GDP growth rate is more or less a direct impact of the political environment in Venezuela. Very risky. And to conclude, I believe each country besides Venezuela within this region will continue to slowly grow in terms of GDP and opportunity. But as of now, this region's economy mainly just revolves around oil, which is the most prominent investments, with the most prominent investments by the U.S. in this region being oil companies like Exxon. But I believe that the increased demand for technologies within this country, these countries may lead to some significant impacts in innovation and opportunity. With the help of countries such as Mexico, the United States, China, Canada, I think within the next 20 years there will be great opportunities to expand to this market, especially for tech firms and automotive companies. As for oil, some of the best oil sites are either in Colombia or Venezuela. So I would recommend staying around Colombia, Middle Magdalena, the Llanos Basin, Maracaibo Basin, close to the Panama Canal. That is the best for oil. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day.